Welcome, Warframe players, viewers. We're here to talk about guns, which is why we threw the book away. Actually, that was just coincidental timing. So I thought I'd do something different for a couple of videos here. There will still be a build video coming out. I believe Baruch is the next one, as voted on by my clan/alliance. But I needed something I could record in kind of short bursts, so we're doing a little bit of a compilation here of my favorite weapons in Warframe. Depending on the length of that may be one part or two parts, or we might just break it up to primary, secondary, melee. I haven't fully decided at the time of this intro how many are actually on the list. And I will see you all with the first set. Alright, so welcome to the simulacrum, because if we're going to show off guns, we should do it somewhere where we can actually make enemies. Which was not that capture scene to the best of my knowledge, though you can in some of them. I digress though. Starting with the top of the list, so it's not in any kind of order, is the very one that we have equipped here, which is the Tenant Ferox. There's also a regular Ferox. He loses a little bit of power, but that doesn't really do anything completely different. Kind of a spear guns in general I like. You'll probably see at least one other one on this list. Spoilers, it's not the original one though. Spear guns, you can throw them and they do things. This particular one does that, where it groups them all together. Other than that, it's just a very nice, somewhat AoE splashy thing. And it's a very decent hybrid of status and crits, so you can very quickly scale it up with your hunter munitions, viral stuff, if that's your flavor. You can also do the corrosive heat and all that things. So that's the Tenant Ferox. Also, you get to look like a cool wizard, which is why Dante here has it. And that's pretty much all we have to say about that. They did change spear guns if you're an older Warframe player at one point, so you can now throw them and shoot them. You don't have to run over here and pick it up to start shooting again. And that's just happened to be at the top of the list because it's my highest ranked weapon at rank 40. And, oops. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Quor, a slug-based shotgun you can get very early on in the game from the Plains of Eidolon bounties. Many people went for the Heck. This was basically what I ran the early game with in a similar fashion. You can see it does a shot. This is the Kuva version, which can do automatic if you hit fire it as well. The regular one does not do that. There's a rhythm to this. If you get off rhythm, particularly with the regular version, it can jam. Can be kind of annoying, but it's a very serviceable shotgun with some pretenses of being a sniper rifle. But yeah, the more you get up here, you can also start the auto and hold it down. I haven't been back to it in a while. It's not really fully modded up, which is why it's not being super effective here, but it's still a very solid opening gun and just has that nostalgia feel from my early days. Coming up next, we have the Tetra. More specifically, the 10 Tetra, because the regular Tetra I'm not that much of a fan of. It has a cool little thing where you can do this. And on Mirage particularly, you can do this. So you can imagine that has quite the applications. The alt fire on the 10 Tetra is also that. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Of the myriad assault rifles with the grenade launcher alt fire, it's probably my favorite over some of the other ones. And yeah, the bouncy lasers, which is a specific augment that I don't super remember where you get it from, it's just kind of amusing. Not very practical in this large room, as you can tell, but always interesting. I always push that button when I'm starting the clip. Not to be outdone by the other one, here's the Tenant Archiplasmor. Archiplasmor comes from your energy lab in your clan dojo. The Tenant Archiplasmor comes from a sister of Parvos. Big difference is this is another shotgun that's not really a shotgun. A recurring theme you'll notice on this list. And it shoots this plasma wave thing. So you can tell mine is shooting multiple because I have applied a multi-shot and also a negative accuracy mod called Heavy Caliber, I think, or a variation thereof. The only difference with the Tenant one to the regular one, other than some stat buffs and the projector damage, is that it bounces off the walls like that. Despite that projectile, it does actually work better if you get up close like this. Of course, you can just get silly and spammy like this as well. Always a crowd pleaser, and despite not being super meta anymore, it's fairly constant on a lot of different people's favorite lists. Rounding up some more Kuva weapons, this is the Kuva Chakur. There is no regular Chakur. It's this or nothing. This one takes rifle mods, but behaves like a shotgun, kind of. It's a little complicated to explain. It's ostensibly an accurate rifle, but it does have some slight AoE. It would help if I actually hit the enemy. And yeah, it's just pretty baseline. Does this. Has the cool reload animation, of course. That's about half its selling point. Other than being a not actually sniper rifle that functions like a sniper rifle. I'm a sucker for some lever action rifles, even if they aren't quite super optimum. And if you do have grouping abilities or things that like give you a lot of punch through, you can get some mileage out of them like that. And we'll see you in a sec. Alright, I hope you brought your ammo mutation mods and or your carriers, which I unequipped my Sentinel so it didn't mess up the weapon demonstrations. Here we got the Xultra Prime. Xultra Prime, you get like any other Prime gun. The regular Xultra drops from Demolus parts on the Uranus Disruption mission. Both are the signature weapons of Gauss, and he gets some kind of boost. I think it's reload speed while sprinting while using them. I always use it with Gauss, so just for the full effect here, it does this. If you get up close, it won't do the AoE. It has a safety feature. It was actually one of the last guns released before they stopped explosions from damaging you. Because doing this back in the day with explosives would kill you. Basically instantly. There were a few tricks and trades around it. There was a cautious shot mod and things like that. But yeah, old school Warframe, by which I mean like 2019 or something. Well, I said there would be more spear guns. So here's the Entus. This is Styanax's here's signature weapon. Regular fire. You shoot a javelin-y thing into an enemy and it explodes after a second. Honestly, not that great. You can see that's very slow. If I do this and stand inside this lovely bubble, you can see it speeding up immediately. If you get a kill like that, you can leave the bubble and keep the buff for a bit. Which is almost required if you want to actually use this as a weapon. Neat thing is this also applies to allies and any other weapon you use, so I can go ham with this one, for instance. This one will be in the secondary part of the video when we get there. But yeah, very much a support weapon, but can be quite interesting or useful on defense missions if you don't otherwise want to use a primary. The effect in play also does apply to your melee weapons, even though it's called a fire rate buff. Alright, this is another one of those shotguns that are highly questionable shotguns. This is the Atilla. What the Atilla does is it shoots, it's hard to tell, really. It shoots a crystal that explodes. Kind of the opposite of the Exorcist, which smashes a crystal into the shotgun blast. This one almost kind of like a grenade launcher that shoots a little claymore thing. It's still much better if you get up in their face and hit them in the head. Yeah, I just like the aesthetic of this one more than anything. I'm actually not the biggest fan of the Prime look versus the regular one, but yeah, it is still subject to shotgun, so if you start trying to use it from that far away, you're gonna have a little bit of a rough time. Time for the arm cannon portion of the video. It's only actually 2 arm cannons, 3 technically, I guess. One's an incarnate thing though. I'm not a big fan of the Shadow, but this is the Bonico. Regular mode, this is a shotgun, and the weapon uses shotgun mods. You can see it's got one of those recharging ammo things going on the bottom. The all-fire mode is this big splashy high status grenade that inflicts innate viral, so once you smash the enemies up with your status, you just destroy them like this. Worth noting, those grenades will hurt you as well. Or not hurt you, they'll stagger you. So here's a neat gimmick weapon that doesn't get much love. Where's my Kuba Buzzlock? I think I forgot to mention the Bonico can be found in your infested lab in your dojo, by the way, in the previous clip. The Buzzlock can be found in your chemical weapons dojo with all the air grenades. So this is a sniper rifle, as you can see. And how this one works is you slap a dude with the secondary fire, such as a heavy gunner. Welcome to headshots. Believe it or not, there is some stupid shit you can do with that. A lot of it's very niche or gimmicky, but yes. Mine's not properly modded out, despite it being a favorite, but yeah. It's just silly nonsense. Hey guys, do you like scissors? How about laser scissors? Ongoing theme, shotguns that are not actually shotguns. This is the Convectrix. I believe it's from the Energy Lab, but it might just be a market blueprint even. It might predate the labs. Convectrix is you can see, takes a second to focus this beam, but it's very much a beam weapon. It's not consuming ammo because there is a mod you can get from Nora's Nightwave shop that gives it no ammo use if the beams aren't actually dealing damage. The alt fire on this is always amusing, if not practical, because it is just literally scissors. Also on the controller, this is very hard to hold down this button while moving, because it's my look as well. Thing with it, if you watch their status there, yeah, this thing has an absurd status chance, and it is basically pure slash. I think it's just the windup, which you can get around with some fire rate tricks that really sets people off, because yeah, once this thing gets going, it can melt Archon Hunt stuff. Not Archons themselves, because their slash procs are capped, but yeah, I've seen upwards of 300 slash procs on a single target. I was surprised that they weren't dead. They were like a millisecond later. Welcome to Goda Prime. There's no regular Goda, and the Goda Prime only comes from Baru Katir nowadays. It was originally a Tenocon thing. The regular Goda is basically the Aeolac from the Zerman, which I'm not so fond of. This one, mostly, I just like things that have cool gimmicks. It's not a particularly massive gimmick, but see those reds? This is a gun that gets critical chance, forces red crits based on status procs. I'm not going to get detailed into the math on that one, but yes, the more status you build, the more likely it's going to get a red crit. Shakes up things a little bit, even if it's middle-ish in the terms of power. And it's always nice to see some unique builds come about. Alright, so this is the Opticor. I'm holding the Opticor Vandal, which comes from the Thermia Fractures event. You can see on the right side, I've also got the regular Opticor loaded up because I don't actually have one in my inventory. The regular Opticor is a sniper rifle that does dispersion, that does slightly more damage than the Vandal. As you'll notice, though, a lot of those stats are red, other than range and damage. This is one we're all hoping for a Tenant version of someday, or a Prisma version, or Incarnate, what have you. I forgot to respawn my dudes. Give me 1 sec. But yeah, if you're familiar with linear fusion rifles at all, same sort of deal here. Or, yeah, they are called linear fusion rifles from Destiny. There's a little bit of an AoE there, but don't rely on that at all. You want to go for headshots. This is, for all intents and purposes, a sniper rifle. Yeah, you can see this probably, I probably could re-optimize the builds a little bit, but you can see this is not quite keeping up to snuff. Alright, this is a Gorgon. This particular one is a Prisma Gorgon. This one comes from Barrow. You can also get the Gorgon Wraith from one of the big invasion missions. I want to say it is Razorback Armada, I think. Let's just go search Gorgon Wraith if you want. Regular Gorgon drops from heavy gunners, I believe, in standard missions. You can get the blueprint that way. This is overall just a very solid machine gun, but it does have a very cool Nightwave augment. Which gives it this rather neat enemies are petrified thing. Interestingly, it does not seem to play nice with Atlas's abilities at all. Oh, I know why he's messed up. I don't have a melee weapon on for him. But yeah, turns enemies to stone. As far as I'm aware, they fixed that triggering aura gaze, though, which was the go-to looting method with it. So yeah, it's a niche for Atlas more than anything, or if you just happen to want your heavy machine gun to also have a crowd control component. Still a very unique ability for a weapon to have. Alright, time for another more aesthetic than actually optimal in any way choice. This is the Prisma Grinlock. There's a regular Grinlock too, which comes from your dojo. It's not one of those bolt or lever action or accuracy marksman-y rifles. As you can see, you can get it to work, but it's kind of hit and miss. You're really looking for those hunter munitions to go off for you. Yeah, this is a simple precision rifle. It's kind of like the Chakur, not quite as powerful. It doesn't have the AoE explosion, which is somewhat of a selling point if you're actually looking for marksmanship, because the enemies aren't bouncing around from the forced impact procs. But yeah, you probably want a ribbon if you're going to use this one, but you can make it work, and it's got some style points. Alright, this thing that I can barely get on screen, this is sensibly a bow. It's called the Lens, L-E-N-Z, or Z, depending where you live. Original lens comes from your energy lab in your dojo. This is the Prisma lens, which comes from Barrow. The Prisma lens is better. The other one's showing a little bit of age, but not terribly. Like most of the explosive bows, as you can see in the bottom right there, is kind of low on ammo, so you really want to look into those mutation mods or a carrier or things like that. But yeah, this one, you shoot a man's, everything freezes in a bubble, and then it explodes. It's a pretty generous amount of cold procs you can get too. I'm not sure if you'd be able to actually trigger enough to freeze them with the new update that's coming in for those. Maybe with Citrine or Dante making them vulnerable. But yeah, it's just pretty baseline in what this does. This was another one fondly remembered from the new days. Significantly because my buddy got it and kept killing themselves consistently. Because again, in the old days, explosions damaged you, so you'd shoot this, like, oh, it's safe, and then you're dead. Always remember there are multiple stages to that, and the cold bubble is not the finale. And what can I say, I'm a sucker for gathering weapons. I always like to put my enemies where I want them. So here's the Prasa Cernos. The regular Cernos, I believe, is in the Tenno lab in the dojo. The Mutilus Cernos, which in itself is quite a nice status-inflicting bow, which you sacrificed to craft this one. I haven't recrafted the Mutilus Cernos since, or I might have actually put it in the video. Then this one also comes from the Infested Lab, and you upgrade the Mutilus Cernos into it. It does have return to an explosive bow, so you add all those ammo problems we just talked about with the lens. Basically with this one, you shoot it down, it makes a little goop pile, which pulls everything in and explodes. There's also an arrow that you can hit in the enemies in the head, but it's almost inconsequential and tends to actually screw up the grouping if you shoot that at the enemy. That's about all there is that one. I use it on Nidus typically for thematics, even though Nidus can just do this and kind of get the same effect. So you can always double up, but the bow can do that by itself. Here's the Quailor. The Quailor drops somewhere in the top void Proxima of Railjack. I think the blueprint drops off captains. I got the supporter pack around the time of Railjack because I needed some platinum anyways, so I'm not actually 100% sure. And I was kind of doing this somewhat on the fly in terms of the individual weapon choices. This one, you can shoot people. It's kind of your bog standard machine gun here. The other feature we have, and this one actually works very good if you have those hemorrhage internal bleeding mods from forced impacts, is you can just shoot a big old beam through people. Highly recommend some fire rate, such as Volt here. And reload speed if you are going to try and stick with that one. See if I can get him before the 10 virals go off. There we go. But yeah, it's a nice pew-pew energy machine gun with a bit of a big burst backup when you need it. I swear I'm not putting these weapons here at thematic choice, just how they happen to appear on the list. This is the Stulta. Kind of like the Quailor, though it's more of an assault rifle than a machine gun. Need some of that. Or you have option B. I think you only get one of those if you don't have some kind of magazine mod on it, but I'm not 100% sure. This isn't a build review guide. It's a weapon review guide of sorts. But yeah, big kaboom. There's radiation damage too. I don't see it proc radiation too often though, or I'd probably be used it more with Corvex. So don't rely on that part of it. Continuing with machine guns by virtue of that's alphabetical order, here's a Supra Vandal. There's a regular Supra, it's not as good. Supra Vandal, any Gricata fans out there? This is basically the Corpus Gricata. Are there any questions? Oh, so yeah, a little punch through and you can do this with Neg. Again, are there any questions? Yeah, anything in here is going to be very, very dead. This thing's also pretty good at inflicting status and not terrible at crits. Alright, away from machine guns, sort of. This is a synapse. It is from your infested lab, if I remember right. If not, it's just a market blueprint. Some infested guns were on the market. Some of the lab, what seems like lab guns, were on the market because they predate the labs. This thing is a precision beam weapon, despite its appearance. It is all, for all intents and purposes, a laser. It is a laser made of acid. Well, it doesn't appear to have a very high status chance because of fire rate and beam weapons that will go upscale very quickly. It also has quite incredible critical stances. So if you're right, if you happen to be like running your Sarah here, as many people do with green shards, I don't have them in her because I don't run Sarah that often. You can actually just tank through things like this. This one isn't even getting the enough corrosive procs, but it does have a very slow reload speed though, so you might want to look into that one. This also isn't particularly well modded at all. But yeah, this is another one that's just kind of neat. It's one of the only guns that has innate corrosive damage, which means you can put a bunch of other stuff on there to your taste. You can have the often lauded viral corrosive weapon build all in one without using Sarah or Nourish. This whirring pile of nonsense is a simulor. This particular one is a cynoid simulor. Regular simulor comes from Cephalon Samaris' standing shop, and the cynoid simulor comes from Cephalon Suda's, or trade with someone if Suda's mad and wants to kill you all the time. She really is kind of prickly. This one shoots at these. These seem like kind of weird, wibbly wobbly, slow grenades, right? You shoot enough of them together, you get one of these. You can also explode them with your alt fire manually, which is a damage over time field. It also used to pull people in. I distinctly remember that being a thing. I'm hoping it's not just a Mandela effect. At some point that got removed, so now it's just deployable like damage fields. Kind of what the Alternox tries to do, except I do, but I think the Simulor is a little better at that. One weird thing is it takes three balls to make a thing, and the magazine is 16, so there's always like this weird little extra one at the end. But yeah, it's better for a status primer than as a direct damage weapon in my general experience, but it does do its job reasonably well. Also, if you have the Cephalon Suda, it does the fill up and refill your energy thing. Getting toward the end of the list here, we've got the Trumna. This large piece of equipment, if you couldn't tell by the look of it, comes from the Necrolisk on Deimos. You can get from Father after ranking up sufficiently, along with Lavos and a couple of other weapons and kit guns. The Trumna kicks like a mule, but besides that, as you can see, there's a little bar filling up there, kind of like an Incarnate. As I get a few kills, basically eats people's souls, and then you do this. I'll see if I've got enough here to refill that again to show you what it looks like when it doesn't just disappear into a pile of enemies. Yeah, it'll keep doing that, and every time it hits something, it explodes again. So yeah, the heaviest of heavy machine guns eats the enemy's souls and then shoots them out in a big ping-pong bouncy ball of death. Alright, back in the area of marksman rifles of a sort, this is the Zenith. It is a login reward for some ridiculous number of days logged in. Good old regular assault rifle, right? Now the interesting one I think about this one is if you shoot off one of these little secondary dealies, it marks all the enemies' heads for you, which is kind of handy for spotting enemies if they have to stick in, but you can also just shoot through walls. This has some applications for both Profit Taker and Eidolon hunting. People use it to shoot the shield generators on the Profit Taker through the mountain. This little like perfect dark farsight thing. Does not allow you to do it through the rift though. Kind of similar to, it was the Buzzlock. I always get that in the Argonac mixed up, except it doesn't auto aim for you, it just highlights something and then you can shoot them. Forget if there is an actual limit to the punch through, not that I recall. Because I'm shooting through this thing like multiple pipes. Yeah, that's the Zenith. This one is not fully kitted out, so like many of the weapons here, don't specifically rely on its performance in this demonstration as more than a guide to what it does. Nearing the end of our little excursion here, this is the Basmu, a sentient weapon you can get from the Nabris event. Other than that, I did Halloween. Other than that, I believe you have to trade for it. It might also pop up during other events that D decides to run here and there. This has two functions. You got a fairly basic assault rifle here. This weapon does recharge itself, but if you fire it to empty, it will reload like that and does some token damage, but more importantly, heals you with those little bursts. That one's middling usefulness. It used to have some funny bugs with like a 730 times crit multiplier. That's long been fixed, so. The secondary fire shoots out these chaining beams. As you can see, that has some very effective self-priming capability. When you want everything all at once. And if you mod it with the right statuses, it can actually do a pretty significant amount of damage. Not necessarily your go-to. So yeah, if you ever want a primary weapon primer, one thing is, for the most part, the Basmu, try not to let it go down to 0, because then it will do the whole song and dance and take a lot longer to charge back up. But yeah, it's a very solid weapon if you get that little timing thing down so that you're only using it if you actually need to heal for some reason. Or if you make sure you always empty the clip with that and put some kind of crowd control effect on it. Like cold now, if you put cold on, and once they do that update in Jade Light, you'll probably be able to flash freeze the entire group and heal yourself to full. But yeah, not the be-all end-all of guns, but certainly a solid little thing with some multiple utilities to it. Alright, and capping off our primary weapons section. If you've been watching recent videos, you're probably familiar with this one already. It is the Zooe Prime. There's also a regular Zooe. The main difference is the Prime has those little delayed explosions. Some people actually don't like the little delayed explosions, so you may want to use just the regular one. It's up to you. But yeah. One fun quirk of this is despite being fully automatic, and in the case of the Prime Explosive, it's a automatically silenced weapon. That has some interesting applications if you are into using Ivara's Prowl, for instance. That said, it's a automatic crossbow. Like many bows, it's much better at being a headshot weapon. You can probably remember this trick from the Sevagoth video. But yeah, not rewriting the wheel or genre defining by any means, but wanted to put one of the crossbows on the list, and this is probably the best one of the crossbows. And that pretty much wraps up our primary weapon showcase. We could talk about art guns, but that's sort of an aside, but I don't have a super preference to any of them. I like the Larkspurs, the chaining damage, and status priming, and I think it's the Morga is another one that I don't actually have, but I've seen put to good use. And the Mausolon is the other art gun that everyone uses, essentially. Anyways, remember to leave a like and subscribe. Thanks for checking it out. We should have these secondary and melee versions coming up shortly soon as well. And I can hopefully provide you with some other inspired weapon choices aside from the usual meta fodder. Not that I don't have a problem with meta fodder, it's just a lot of it's very boring and samey. And we will see you in the next one.